ABC. This is Dave here. When I was doing my first part of my 2019 vinyl tag, my camera shut off when I was in the middle of one of my albums that I was showing, which was the Glen Campbell album, and I'll get to it here in a minute. It said the card was full, and I deleted what was some of the stuff on my camera, and so I guess I'm back in business unless it wants to cut me off again. But kind of backing up the truck a little bit on some of the stuff I was talking about on that first part of the video, and I forgot to mention one of the VC members that I've been enjoying, and that's Michael P. Dawson, I believe is his name. Michael P. Dawson. He likes a lot of jazz, progressive, and various other type musics that I like as well. So you can check him out if you are so inclined, you like that kind of music. And I mentioned this album here as far as it being a neat cover, but I didn't care for the music, which was this one. And I went online and was looking around at the name of the, here's the name of the, actually this first part here, they're a Zool band, I believe out of Japan, my finger is, and I believe it's pronounced something like, that's the name of the band there, from what I can tell, which is Koenjihyakkei, something like that. Koenjihyakkei, and the name of the album was Anger Sispa, and it's on the Skin Graft Records is the record label, and I'll try and leave a link below the video. This came out in 2005. Like I said, it's on Skin Graft Records, and it's drums, voice, bass, voice, keyboards, and voice, and they have a female vocalist along with a reed player and vocals. But I was saying that I kind of like Zool, but this one here has too much vocalization on it, and I don't care for all the vocals and everything. It's Zool was kind of started by the French band Magma, and they even made up their own lyrics and everything, which this has got lyrics, and I don't know if the lyrics are made up in that particular language that was made by Magma or not, but I find that whole lyric thing made up in a fake language to be, I don't know, a little bit pretentious, if not a lot pretentious. But if I'm going to listen to Zool music, I prefer just the music only, and there are some bands that are just music only. So anyway, that's out of the way. Let's see here. Oh, got sidetracked. Been painting a little bit. I know Carm always likes to see what I'm doing paint-wise. This is a painting I entered into a gallery here, and got accepted, and will be showing here in town. And here's another piece of artwork that got accepted. So I was happy to get them accepted and to be showing again here in town. And I think I just about got it covered. So I think where I left off last time was albums influenced by my parents, and I showed this Glen Campbell album. Glen Campbell, my mother grew up in kind of in the sticks of Arkansas, and that's where, same town that Glen Campbell grew up in. She was quite a bit, well, not quite a bit, but I'd say about maybe 10 years older than Glen was. And so like Glen Campbell had a show on TV that we used to watch as kids and as a family, and it came on after the Smothers Brothers excuse me, had a show, or comedy hour, variety show on before the Glen Campbell show, but they got pulled off the air due to, you know, them being controversial and whatnot. But I used to like watching the Smothers Brothers because they'd have bands like Jefferson Airplane and the Doors, and they had a lot of other different kind of rock bands back then on their program, and they kind of had this you know, comedic edge. Of course, they do their own folk comedy routines as well, which I enjoy. But you know, they kind of got into censorship trouble with all the against the war movement and Nixon and everything back then. So when they got pulled off the air, then Glenn Campbell kind of took their place, and a lot of the same people that were on the Smothers Brothers, like Pat Paulson and maybe Jimmy Hartford, I believe, might have been on their show too. But a lot of the people that were on Smothers Brothers moved over to the Glenn Campbell show, and so we watched that as a family. And let's see, back we went to go see Glenn Campbell back at, I believe it was the Hemisphere of Texas, which is just kind of a one-shot fair thing that they had down in San Antonio. And Dad got us all tickets, and as the opening act, they had Bob Newhart come out and do the comedy routine, which I'd seen Bob Newhart, you know, on late night television like Johnny Carson and stuff like that, so I was familiar with him. And he did a real good routine, kind of like he always is, kind of deadpan and what have you. But you know, finally he got the crowd warmed up, and Glenn Campbell came out and did you know, all of his hits at the time, which I can't even remember. I think it came, that concert was maybe before Wichita Lineman, but I can't really remember. But at any rate, as you know, Glenn Campbell is an excellent performer and guitarist and singer. And he used to have another one of his albums too, which I tried looking for. It was his By the Time I Get to Phoenix albums, and it was on a green cover, and it was in these excuse me, it was in these kind of flimsy, I found these albums here. They're, I think, Japanese, but either way they're Asian, I believe. But I have a Glenn Campbell album like this, and they're like encased in plastic, and they're real, you know, they're just paper encased in plastic. And anyway, I had a Glenn Campbell album, his By the Time I Get to Phoenix, that way as well. And as you can see, there's you know, Asian writing. I believe it's Japanese down here at the bottom. I found these in a, I don't know, a pawn shop or a thrift store somewhere. Here's another one with Dean Martin. And here's one with Andy Williams. I don't know if you can see all that, but you can see there's the writing down here at the bottom. And so, like I said, they were, you know, real cheap, and so I bought them. But at any rate, I got a Glenn Campbell album that way too, but it's around here somewhere, and I just couldn't find it. And they were also asking about Show a 10-inch. And here's one by Elvis Presley called Love Me Tender. It's on the, oh golly, I forgot the format of these records, but it's not vinyl, it's the other material that they made them out of. And I found these cheap too. Here's another one. It's sort of a Christmas novelty song called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer by Gene Autry, which is a really big hit at the time, way back when. And on the other side is If It Doesn't Snow on Christmas as well. And so there's a couple of 10-inch. In a more modern mode, though, I have this one here. This is Squeeze, done in one of these funny covers that's I guess that's a die cut, I don't know. But it's a 10-inch record. It's got 6 songs crammed onto one 10-inch record. It says it's got Cool for Cats and Up the Junction, Slap and Tickle, Goodbye Girl, and a couple other songs on it on A&M Records. And mostly bought it for the sleeve. By the way, I hit a deer last night, or the other night, while I was out. I live kind of out in the sticks, and there's woods all around, and man, I hate to hit any kind of animals, even if they're small critters like squirrels or, you know, raccoons, or, boy, it kind of tears me up. But I was out shopping at Walmart, coming back late at night, and it's kind of the end of deer hunting season here in Texas, and you know, I should have known better and to go back up a more lighted way, but I went this dark area, and this little deer creeped out on the road, and the road is such that it had like an embankment on one side, and it's a small road anyway, and then a crevasse or whatever on the other. And you know, stuff like that happens in the wink of an eye. I think I had about 3 seconds maybe total to, you know, figure out what I wanted to do. Of course, I slammed on the brakes, and I hit the deer. I don't think I broke any bones, but it bumped it pretty good and kind of smashed in the front of my automobile. But you know, all in all, things could have been a lot worse, and I'm just happy it, you know, I didn't go off in the bar ditch, or, you know, it didn't come up in my windshield and kill me, or, you know, something like that. And I hope the deer, you know, made it through okay. I mean, I don't think it tore it up very bad. I didn't hear any bones break or whatever. But you know, I sure hated hitting that deer more than anything, because, you know, I hate hitting wildlife like that, whether, you know, whatever it is. But particularly deer, I find them so pretty. Somebody said, I don't know if I showed this one already. This is a 2-record set. Of course, I always show this one because I think I may have already shown it. Mothers of Invention's first album, because it kind of got me into avant-garde music, and introduced me to Frank Zappa and the band he plays with. So a real good 2-record set album. Here's another one though that I really like a lot. I didn't particularly care for this album when it came out, but it's just kind of so sprawling and everything. It takes a while to listen to it, to get into it. But this is Joni Mitchell's Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, and it's got some really good players on it. You know, I really love the way Joni Mitchell sings and plays. It's got I know Jaco Pastorius is on here on bass, and you know, a lot of really good session musicians. I don't know if I can find who else is on here, but Pat Metheny may play on this. I know he's played on some. Yeah, let's see. Chaka Khan sings on one song, and Wayne Shorter's on it. John Gruen. You know, and there's some orchestration and so what, but the main title cut of the album, Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, takes up, see, I believe it's that one, takes up a whole side of the album, and just a really neat album overall. Generally I'll put this on when I'm kind of doing something of some sort, you know, and really good album. Let's see here, what else have we got? Oh, show a 6-inch record. This is the Beatles' Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby. And here's I'll Be Happy to Dance With You and I'll Cry Instead. A couple of years ago I went over to England and did a tour over there, and went to Liverpool. They actually got some statues of the Beatles over there in Liverpool, and there actually is a yellow submarine, and over in one of the harbors over there, and just across the way, it's the Mercy River that it's sitting in. And the Yellow Submarine, it's like the cartoon. If you ever seen the Beatles cartoon of Yellow Submarine, it's made up like that. It's made for tourists and whatnot. But I thought that was kind of cool because I never knew that there was an actual Yellow Submarine made. And I don't know if you can go in it, but there's some snapshots on, if you'll Google search it online, you can see what it looks like. I've got a picture of it, but I didn't have time to find the pictures. But even inside, they've got it kind of, detailed out, kind of like the Yellow Submarine cartoon in parts of the submarine. And I assume at times maybe they'll let tourists go down there and look at it. But at either rate, I thought that was pretty cool when I was over there in Liverpool. We did the whole tour of the Beatles, and they showed where they grew up at, and the schools they went to, and where they hung out in the park there, John Lennon and Paul McCartney and all that. So if you ever do a tour of the UK, for sure get one to Liverpool or get one through that area. Let's see here, earworm songs. Okay, one of the things that I first thought of was a song off this album here, which is a Crosby, Stills and Nash's American Dream album. I think this was their 4th or 5th album, 6th maybe. But generally everybody listens to, which, I don't blame them. I love their first album, which is just called Crosby, Stills and Nash. And I like Deja Vu as well. But I think next to those two albums, this one for me is just right up there with Deja Vu, actually. Their second album, American Dream. And there's a song on here that was written by Neil Young and Steve Stills called Got It Made. Really neat song, man. Every time I put it on, I have to listen to it more than once. I'll jimmy the CD player around to hear it more than once, maybe 2 or 3 times in a row. But I like the message of the song about talking about somebody that they knew in their past, and they heard something about those people, and now their life is turned around. Now they got it made, and they're real happy for them. So I just like the positivity of that song. And besides the music and words and everything are really, really good. So American Dream by Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Young. I think the ending this up is, like they said, post an album that you can fall asleep to. Now I've always listened to albums late at night, and I can listen to just about anything depending on my mood, even some loud far out stuff. But I used to have an old Sears Silvertone stereo, and you could turn it on, it'd come on, it'd shut off automatically and everything. I mean, they ought to bring those things back for younger kids. So I would listen to even psychedelic rock or whatever at night, and listen to one side and just fall asleep. It helps me kind of clear my mind at times, and also shut out some traffic noise or whatever. But here's one by Harold Budd. This is his Lovely Thunder album, and it is ambient music. It's on the Editions EG label, which has some connections with Brian Eno. I don't know how much Eno had to do with this label, but he showcased a lot of artists like Harold Budd, John Hassell, and the Laraji. As well as some of his other stuff. I think he did some stuff that were compilations on this particular label. But yeah, this is Harold Budd along with Michael Hoenig, and it just has this sort of otherworldly sound to it. You know, kind of almost third world. You know, like you're in the Amazon rainforest or something. And all of his stuff really it's at least listening to. It's worth listening to. You know, he has some stuff better than others, but Harold Budd plays piano in sort of a dreamy way. Here's another one. This is a synthesizer album. They can be kind of fun to listen to at night too. This is Michael Stern's Planetary Unfolding. Really love the cover on this, which is kind of hand drawn. But here he is on the back with one of his synthesizers, a modular unit, and it's pretty much space rock, but done space rock like maybe Tangerine Dream or somebody like that. Real sort of spatial, you know, and not very rhythmic. You know, just kind of sound space. And then they said, what advice would you give anybody that wants to join the community? Well, I'll just say, you know, get on and join, and you know, do your own thing, be yourself, and talk about albums that, you know, you enjoy listening to, and share them with the community, and see what happens. You can meet new people on here, and other people that are like-minded with the type of music that you like. I mean, that's one of the things I like about the VC. And a lot of different people introduce you to different type, you know, genres of music that you might be interested in, and then you can do a search on it, and, you know, go over to Amazon or, you know, wherever you like to go, and you know, see if you can find those albums or those artists and listen to some of it, and see if you know, might want to buy their albums. Yeah, all those are good experiences. And I also found this book here, which I thought I would show. I know Carm is real interested in synthesizer music. Carm happens to be, along with Cosmic Pickle, Gary Hayden, happen to be guys that I know on the VC, that I met through the VC. Anyway, I found this book on I believe it was eBay or Amazon one, but it's a vintage synthesizers, and what it is just kind of like a synthesizer wish book, you know, basically. Or I guess if I was a millennial, I'd say, you know, it's synthesizer porn, which is a term I'm not very fond of, but really it's just a wish book, and it tells about all these vintage synthesizers. And it doesn't necessarily have interviews with any of the players, which would be an interesting thing to see. It's more of a meat and potatoes, kind of a nuts and bolts type thing about some of these old synthesizers. It tells a little bit of the history. You know, it talks about some of the inventors of, you know, like Moog and Buchla, that created some of the synthesizers, and is a pretty neat book. It also has back here in the back, it gives some you know, some a glossary of maybe what they're talking about, and it also has some you gotta hear this section, which talks about, you know, they highlight certain synthesizer albums on here, like they've got John Anderson and Vangelis, the best of John and Vangelis. They've got Milton Babbitt's Time Inconium, and various other synthesizer albums. Of course, Wendy Carlos has several albums in here, but all in all, I mean, they got a little thing on here about the, here's Keith Emerson playing on his synthesizer, and they've got the Mellotron instrument in here, and I used to have an old ARP synthesizer, and they have a picture of it in here as well, along with some really old synthesizers. And I've just been kind of enjoying going through here. It's probably not something you'd sit down and read. Here's the art down here by my hand. This happens to be the black-faced art. The one I had was a white-faced one, so they came out with two models, one black and one white. I preferred the white one because you could kind of see the control knobs and sliders and whatever better. This was a monophonic synthesizer and just had really two oscillators on it, so you couldn't do chords or anything, but it was really cool for making sound effects and all that kind of type thing, playing lead lines and what have you. But yeah, this is put out by Mark Vail, who writes for Keyboard magazine. I never did take Keyboard, the magazine, when it was coming out, but yeah, I thought this was kind of a fun book to buy, and I've been enjoying reading it here lately. So anyway, if you're interested in that type of thing, you might take a look at it. Like I said, it's by Mark Vail, and been pretty interesting. But anyway, I finally got through my 2019 tag for vinyl and everything. I hope you enjoyed it, and been really enjoying watching other people, you know, talk about, you know, what albums they like and what covers they like, and you know, that type of thing in this 2019 tag. So wish everybody a good future and a happy new year, and we'll talk to you later.